Both food intolerances and food allergies are certainly very significant issues in today's world, especially when we take a look at pediatric health in so many children. Food allergies are technically physiological responses by an individual's body to a tiny protein that has entered that individual's bloodstream and is then either calling for a histamine response at a lower level of intensity to something as more life-threatening as an anaphylactic shock type reaction. But again, an allergy, the fundamental unit of the allergy is there's a tiny protein entering the bloodstream causing these reactions. A food intolerance, on the other hand, can be generated strictly from the intestinal lining level. There's something in an individual's diet, whether that be a particular ingredient or some aspect of a food they're eating, that is causing major changes in the way the gut functions, and it could be just at the intestinal lining. This could change an individual's ability to absorb nutrients. It could change the transit time of a meal or food moving through them, and it could increase intestinal permeability, thereby which would cause allergy-like reactions because substances from the diet are entering the bloodstream that don't belong there. So they can be very similar issues arising from slightly different mechanisms, but the long and the short of it is to consider the usual suspects when it comes to food allergies, which are dairy products, eggs, soy, gluten, and to a slightly lesser extent, nuts and seeds. When it comes to things that cause food intolerances, there's a much larger or much greater list of foods which have been shown to aggravate the intestinal environment to the point where bowel function would change or intestinal permeability might be increased. This could include the consumption of heavily sweetened foods because the carbohydrate density could again produce a change in the microbiome that would thereby change this intestinal permeability. It could also be the inclusion of liquid oils or high fat contents in foods that could also challenge digestion and be represented as a food intolerance. Really, it's important to take a look at the patient's responses to both an elimination diet, which would cut out those usual suspects, as well as to the importance of looking at other, maybe biomarker functions like clinical tools such as the eosinophil levels in an individual. When that type of white blood cell, the eosinophil, starts to climb in an individual's blood work, it's highly indicative of a food allergy as opposed to something that might otherwise be a food intolerance. So again, while allergies and intolerances are very common in some of the symptoms we see, such as eczema, psoriasis, maybe in upper digestive tract issues like GERD or gastroesophageal reflux diseases, it's important to look at both the elimination diet and to look at a food diary as important clues as to what's going on when an individual eats certain foods or patterns of eating. Thanks, and I hope this has been helpful.